Hello, my name is Sarrah and this is my Week 8 Interactive Advanced Concept Lab doing Kinetic Sand. So first I had to gather my materials. First I got my sand from the volleyball court that's outside of our dorm because Walmart did not have any type of sand that we could use for this. So my sand was a little wet though, because it's been raining here in Missouri, but I don't think it changed the process too much. And then I got dish soap, and I also got cornstarch from Walmart, and you'll also need a bowl and some water. The water, she didn't specify if it needed to be warm or cold, so I just did cold water. Then you also need a spoon. So for the first part, I took my sand and put it in a bowl. I didn't put all the sand in there just in case I needed to redo the experiment, so I just put a little bit. And then in the video, the girl said to do about a tablespoon of cornstarch, but it looked like I had more sand than she did, so I went ahead and added more than 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. You can see about how much is in that third picture here where my mouse is. I probably added close to 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And then I mixed it, and I did say that my sand was a little wet, so that did kind of pose a problem when I was going to mix it, but I eventually did get it mixed, and that is what it looks like in the 4th picture with cornstarch mixed. Then the second part, I took my cold water and I put some dish soap in it. She didn't say how much dish soap, so I just kind of guesstimated about how much to put in there, and then I mixed it together. And then for the last step, I took the water and soap mixture and poured it into the bowl with the sand and cornstarch. But I did add too much, and it was very, very soupy, so I used some more sand and a little bit more cornstarch and mixed it all together. And then it turned out to be pretty good. As you can see in this last picture, it kind of looks like normal kinetic sand, but adding the cornstarch and more sand helped a lot. So what's really happening? Kinetic sand stays together, allowing you to easily mold and create shapes. Kinetic means togetherness due to the movement and energy, and it is used to describe kinetic sand because, unlike the sand at the beach, kinetic sand sticks together when the force is applied to it. When a liquid is added to cornstarch, it starts to become a little thicker, similar to how sand becomes heavier with water at the beach. But in this recipe, adding your wet ingredients, which was your water and your dish soap, to your dry ingredients, which is your sand and cornstarch, makes the sand heavier and thicker. Adding just the right amount of the wet ingredients allows the sand and the cornstarch mixture to stay dry enough to not stick to your hands, but wet enough to stick together. Kinetic sand is an example of a dilatant or a non-Newtonian fluid that increases its viscosity under stress. You may be familiar with other non-Newtonian fluid, oobleck. An oobleck resembles a liquid until you squeeze it or punch it, and then it feels like a solid. But when you relieve the stress, oobleck flows like a liquid. Kinetic sand is similar to oobleck, but it is stiffer. You can mold the sand into shapes, but after a few minutes to hours, they will flow into a lump. So store-brand kinetic sand is a fun sensory toy, but the store brand is made out of 98% of the ultra-fine grain sand combined with 2% dimethoxin, which is a polydimethylsiloxane. Sand is not poisonous when swallowed, but the dimethicone is a silicone compound that is also used in diaper rash creams and is considered minimally toxic. It's also an important ingredient of silly putty. Alone, the 2 components are fairly uninteresting, but the combination of the sand and the dimethicone is where the magic happens. This mixture creates a moldable solid that can hold a sculpted shape for a short period of time. When left alone, kinetic sand will eventually collapse back into a loose sandy mixture. This happens because kinetic sand is non-Newtonian fluid. A non-Newtonian fluid is loose or liquid when left alone, but gets harder in the stress like when you squeeze it, like I described back in the last slide. This property allows kinetic sand to be used again and again. So, of course, the kinetic sand that I made was not, we didn't have the dimethicone just laying around in the dorm, so we used water and soap instead and a little bit of cornstarch to make that reaction. But all in all, I think it was a successful experiment, and this has been a fun class to do. Thank you.